The film begins by showing an alien vessel, accompanied by the voice of a woman who seems to be studying the human language. The scene then shifts to a male motorcyclist retrieving the body of a young woman from the bushes and placing her inside a white van. That unfortunate woman is taken to a strange room, where all her clothes are then removed by another woman, who, quite astonishingly, has the exact same face as she does. The poor victim can only cry over her fate, while the mysterious look-alike concentrates on a small ant, as though she has never seen such a creature before. Next, this female drives off in the van previously left behind by the motorcyclist and goes to a shopping mall. There, the female makes a few purchases, some cosmetics and several items of clothing that she later uses to enhance her appearance. After that, she drives around slowly and starts paying close attention to every man she sees walking along the street. Eventually, she stops beside a solitary man standing around by himself and begins asking him for directions, flashing him a courteous smile. Yet upon finding out that he is waiting for his friends to arrive, the female decides to leave him be and continues on her way. It is only later that night that the female encounters a lonely individual who perfectly fits the criteria she needs. He is alone, unattached, and evidently willing to be tempted. After the man falls for the female's seductive words, she leads him to an empty house. That place has a peculiar interior, with walls and floors bathed in a pitch-black color. The first man, who believes he is about to enjoy some personal favor, fails to notice anything odd about the room and keeps moving closer while gradually removing his clothes. He does not realize that he is, little by little, sinking into a dark fluid beneath his feet. As soon as the female has put her clothes back on, she departs that place to seek out another prey. By morning, the female arrives at a beach and takes an interest in a man who appears to be a swimmer traveling alone. This swimmer, originally from some distant homeland, has come by himself to enjoy a short vacation. Suddenly, their brief conversation is interrupted by the frantic cries of another man, desperately trying to save his wife from drowning in the ocean. The swimmer, thinking he can help, dashes over to pull that man back to shore. However, the husband, unwilling to lose his wife, pushes the swimmer aside and immediately plunges back into the water. Before long, he drowns as well, leaving their baby alone on the beach, wailing helplessly. Meanwhile, the exhausted swimmer is knocked unconscious by the female, using a rock that abruptly puts him out, and then she takes him away. Later that night, the motorcyclist comes to that very beach, gathers up all the swimmer's belongings, and ignores the crying baby left there. Elsewhere, the female, who continues to hunt for a new victim, is suddenly invited by a group of girls to join them at a crowded nightclub. Naturally, a place full of flashing lights and pounding music does not suit the female's disposition. She has no grasp of how to display normal human emotions. However, just as she is about to leave, a man who claims to have watched her for some time approaches and invites the female to have some fun. This suggestion excites her, even more so after the club man, who is evidently on his own, reveals that he is single. Unfortunately for him, things go badly as soon as he is taken by the female into that same dark chamber. Right after he sinks into the inky liquid, he suddenly regains enough awareness to see himself suspended in empty space, alongside another man. Far more frightening is that this other man's body abruptly shrivels, leaving behind only his outer skin. The red fluid containing his flesh and blood appears to dissolve, seemingly used as energy for an alien craft. Meanwhile, the female, in search of yet another target, happens to hear a radio announcement mentioning the disappearance of a family at the beach. She knows exactly who they are talking about, but shows no emotion whatsoever. Being a creature that does not grasp the value of human life, she simply resumes her mission. Quickly enough, she ensnares another male victim, who showers her with sweet words the whole time they travel together. The man fails to suspect that he will soon meet a ghastly end. Not long after she disposes of him, the mysterious motorcyclist arrives and circles the female. As though suspecting something is amiss, the two lock eyes intently without uttering a word or revealing any sign of feeling. Subsequently, after the motorcyclist takes off, the female again goes out to look for new prey. By chance, she stumbles and falls over at one point, experiencing something akin to pain. She chooses to remain on the ground until people come over to help. At this moment, a subtle hint of humanity seems to awaken inside her. She begins viewing people from a new perspective, perhaps feeling an empathy that causes her to sense a small connection to the human world. Right then, a group of overly aggressive teenagers arrives out of nowhere and tries to barge into her van. Startled by their behavior, the female starts the engine and quickly drives away from that spot. Eventually, she meets a lonely man with a facial condition so rare that he appears unusual enough to frighten away anyone who sees him. He claims to have no friends, likely because people fear his appearance. In short, after the female initially submerges this unfortunate individual in the same black fluid, she seems ready to carry out her usual procedure. However, as she is about to leave the place, she suddenly stops in front of a mirror and stares at her reflection for a long time. She appears overwhelmed by remorse and on a whim decides to show mercy to this man. Nobody can explain how or why, but the female frees him, allowing him to leave that chamber alive. Sadly, as the bewildered man searches for a way home, the motorcyclist appears out of nowhere, knocks him unconscious, and loads him into the trunk of a vehicle. Meanwhile, the female makes up her mind to leave the city, abandoning her van in the middle of the road, and walks into the thick mist before her. She soon finds a small rural area with a quaint cafe that serves sweet pastries. Seeing this, the female wishes to sample something typical of human enjoyment, a delicious piece of cake. But when she tries to eat it, her mouth simply cannot handle the food, causing her to spit it out. Leaving the cafe behind, she stops at a bus shelter, where she meets a courteous stranger who tells her when the next bus will arrive. Realizing that she looks lost, the kind stranger offers her assistance, and she accepts at once. They make a connection, and the female then goes to a supermarket to pick up a few items before the stranger brings her to his home. There, she experiences entirely new things, from watching a comedy show on television to moving her fingers in rhythm with the radio's tunes and observing the man busy in the kitchen. At this point, recalling her earlier incident with the cake, she refrains from trying any more food. Afterward, the man prepares a separate room for her, brings her a cup of tea, and leaves her to rest with a heater turned on. Meanwhile, the motorcyclist and a number of others like him appear to hold an urgent gathering to organize a search for the female. The next day, this kind man takes the female to see local sites, along with remnants of historical significance in the area. This time, she seems untroubled by social interactions and is willing to adopt a calmer, more human existence before heading back. Then, when they return home, they attempt a more intimate relationship. But just as this man is preparing for a close encounter, the female suddenly springs up in alarm, grabbing a lamp and examining the lower part of her body, as though unsure of its specific function. Offering no explanation, she walks away, leaving him confused and somewhat dejected. The female, now alone, heads into the forest, where she briefly meets a local logger who warns her to be careful, especially in the rain, since wet conditions make the ground slippery. Politely, the female thanks him, although she finds his manner suspicious, and continues her journey until she arrives at a remote wooden cabin. Thinking she might use it as shelter from the rain, she goes inside, lies down, and rests. Before long, she is startled by the same logger, who is hovering over her in a way that goes against her wishes. The female flees, attempting to escape his disturbing behavior. This time, she experiences genuine fear like never before. Regrettably, after a desperate attempt to run away, she is caught, and the logger starts tearing at her clothes. In that instant, a crack appears in the skin on her back, revealing a black substance beneath, prompting the shocked logger to run away in terror. Next, the female peels away her outer covering, revealing a dark silhouette that represents her true alien form. At that moment, the logger returns unexpectedly, douses her with fuel, and sets her on fire. Engulfed in flames, the female does not seek help or scream. She merely walks into a clearing covered with snow, gradually burning to ashes, dark smoke billowing skyward while the snow gently falls. From high on a distant slope, the motorcyclist observes it all without offering any intervention. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.